Dance, baby. Dance. Dance. Okay, this is Jamal with Bad Wolf Mixed Martial Arts, and we're going to go back to our street guard position, and we're going to look at some really basic attacks that we can do once we're in that position that are going to be highly successful and keep us out of danger. Remember, Jiu-Jitsu is for fighting, so you want to make sure your techniques can work on the street, in the cage, or in a tournament as well. So the first thing we're going to look at this week will be the Omoplata. From the Omoplata, later we're going to look at the triangle choke, and then a straight arm lock, all coming out of that same setup from our street guard position. So make sure you review the techniques frequently, drill them as often as possible, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep improving your jiu-jitsu in a realistic situation daily. And don't really focus on the tournament situation. If you get on the street, you'll be great in the tournament. All right, let's take a look at it. So step one in the attack immediately takes us to our golden detail. So she throws her strong side punch. I dive into the pool. I use heel strikes to disorient her. Then I put my foot in the bicep, which is the golden detail. When I put my foot into the bicep, it's going to allow us to tightly control that far side arm with a lot of tension. That way she can't get it back. It also gives us more hip mobility and flexibility, which allow me to transition to other positions or attacks. And the third thing is, when I put the foot into the bicep, it takes me into a 90 degree angle that puts me perpendicular, so it keeps me out from underneath her. The next step in the process is I'm going to actually take that foot that's in the bicep, and I'm going to step over the head with that leg. So many people, when they're doing the Omoplata, they use the foot in the armpit and lace it in front of the face, go into that like go-go plata position, and that's not necessarily the most correct way to get into the position. So instead, we step over the head and pinch our feet and our knees together to get good tension on that arm. The third thing that we will do is, after we step over the head, we're going to take our hamstrings and push her away with our hamstrings. So if you see from this angle, when I push her away, you can see some daylight between my butt and the mat, and that's going to allow my legs to get really heavy to help me stop her from posturing up. The last part of the technique is actually the pivot. So I dive into the pool, she strikes, I trap, I strike my heel, I go foot to the bicep, I step over the head. After I step over the head, I push her with my hamstrings. Now I can pivot, take my arm over the back, fold my legs, and remember, we are fighting. So I'm not looking at the Omoplata as a submission. I'm looking at it as a pinning position in which I can strike my opponent where they can't defend themselves. So many grapplers, when they hit the ground, especially like in MMA, they go right into grappling mode, and they kind of forget they're in a fight. So use your jiu-jitsu, use your positions to allow you to strike and to neutralize your opponent. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Watch out for the other two videos this week, which will focus on street guard attacks that work in the cage.